Hello, everyone. It's Miriam Ortiz y Pino here with another More Than Organized Monday. And today we're going to be talking about the plan. The plan, the important part, and the step that many people forget about. So we're going to review why it's important and what actually goes into making a good plan for an organizing project. In the meantime, if you'd like to check out morethanorganized.net or after this edition of More Than Organized Monday, there's lots of free resources that'll take you deeper than what we talk about here. But you can also sign up there for the newsletter and get lots of the free tips delivered right to your inbox. But let's review a little bit. So far in this little series, we have talked about the overview of how to get organized, all the steps involved in getting organized. And we talked about the importance of having a vision so you know why you're getting organized, and that's going to lead to longer lasting results. And now we've got to move on to the planning part, because what I see a lot of my clients do is, and I'm sure it's happened to you, it's happened to all of us at one point or another, but you bite off more than you can chew. I'm going to do the whole garage today. I'm going to do the whole closet today. I'm going to fix my office in a couple hours, and several hours later you're still there. And that's what happens when you don't take the time to actually have the plan. So I want to talk about why that's so important here. But the elements of the plan are to gather the materials you need to do the project, to have the materials, and then you need the time. So you have to set aside time, usually at regularly scheduled intervals. And you have to kind of think through what obstacles might come up and how you might overcome them. It's kind of a mini version of scenario planning. What would you do if this happened? How are you going to keep motivated to keep moving the project forward if you get interrupted, if you run out of one element that you need, if you don't have the right container for whatever? So those kinds of thought processes about what obstacles might come up help you actually achieve your end result, because you've thought through a little bit and you have some idea of what to do instead of just throwing your hands up and saying, I can't do it, I never finish, I don't know what I'm doing. So it's important to spend a little time on the obstacles, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them in just a second. And then we also want to realize that there's some definitions of the space and the activities that go into any given space. So, what are you going to store in the linen closet? Are you going to store linens in there, or are you going to put scrapbooking materials in there? Are you going to put office supplies in there, or linens in there? What is the thing you're going to keep in that particular closet? So I'll go a little bit more into that in just a second as well. So the actual plan. Now, there's kind of 3 steps to planning an organized project. In addition to those considerations I just gave you, there is the actual materials. I've never had to have more than these things. These key ingredients must happen when you go to do an organizing project. You need to have a handy dandy trash can / recycle bin / shredding area. So the trash. What are you going to do with the trash? The things you don't want that aren't donatable, but they're just trash. So you want to know where that is and have bags if possible. And you're going to want to have a place for the donations to go. So some sort of a staging area. I try to take the stuff out of my client's house every time we have an organizing session. However, sometimes when you're working on a lot of little tiny small stuff, it doesn't make sense to necessarily go to Goodwill and after each session or wherever you're going to donate things. Sometimes you want to accumulate enough to justify a car trip. So let's just call it a staging area for your donatable items. And a staging area for where things that belong to other people might go for any given space. So it can be a box or a bin. I just like to have those set up. I also like to set up a place for the things you just aren't sure about. The I'm not sure yet pile, the I don't know what to do with it yet pile, the maybe pile. So I like to have an actual spot where that's going to live between your organizing sessions. And then the next part of the plan is, where do we all actually start? Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, totally spaced. 2 more materials. You're going to need a dust rag and maybe a vacuum. Depending on which space. If you're in the kitchen, you're also going to need some spray cleaner probably. And in the bathroom, you would probably need that too. But most of the time, I just need a dust rag and a vacuum. In your own space, you might want to clean a little bit more, but just know you need that. And you may need gloves and you may need a mask, depending on how much dust you're kicking up in any given area. I always have those for sure when I'm working in a garage or a shed, and occasionally in a dustier part of the house or somewhere that hasn't been used in a while. Here in New Mexico, we get a lot of wind, a lot of dust. It might have been a week ago that you dusted and I might need a mask. So don't offend yourself by needing a mask. Just think, this is what I need to keep myself safe so I can maintain the process longer to get the job done, okay? A glass of water, preferably in a covered container, and music if it makes you happy to work with music. Okay, knowing where to start is the next part of the plan. And let me think, hang on. There is one other thing about materials. Think about it in terms of your comfort. What is gonna make you comfortable? Do you need a sorting table? Do you need a chair? Sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. I like to stand and move around a lot, but every once in a while there's a back issue or something's going on, or you're doing lots of little tiny things and it makes sense to sit down for a little while. So just think that through. What space are you in, and might you need a chair and a table to work on? The other thing is, don't overthink it. I don't need a specific kind of thing or a perfectly shaped trash bag. You know, all those things are kind of relative. Just think through, there's going to be some trash, there's going to be some donations, there's going to be some stuff that needs to be wiped off. That's about it. All right. So that's the materials. The where to start is actually an obstacle. So there's definitely 3 obstacles that come up for most of my clients. Where to start? I don't know where to start. There's the breakdown of how to arrange and think about any given space, and how much of a chunk of it are you going to work on at any given time, and how to find the time to actually organize. So those are the main obstacles. Occasionally there's a few others, but if we start with these. So bottom line is, it does not matter where you start. However, if you're doing your whole house, you want to start in either the kitchen or the master bedroom, just because that's where you spend the most time, or that has the biggest impact for you. So the closet / master bedroom or the kitchen is a great place to start. If you're an entrepreneur and you're working, make it your workspace. It's just about where do you spend the most time. You're going to get the biggest bang for your buck if you start with that particular location. Now, the breakdown of any given room or area is actually to clear surfaces first. So I start with the floor, and then I move up. And I move around the room in a methodical manner. 98% of the time, I go clockwise around the room, starting to the left of the door. However, depending on where your door is in relation to the most things in the room, sometimes you want to go the other way. And when you want to go the other way is when you're going to create enough space to make working in the rest of the room more comfortable. Does that make sense? If you go the easy way first and then you haven't left yourself anywhere to move things around or jostle things about, you're going to end up tripping more often than it saves you time. So pick it that way, but work around. So floor first, so you're not tripping, and then you work your way around top to bottom. So if there is a bookshelf to the left of the doorway, we start at the top shelf and then we work down each shelf. And then we move to the next thing. Maybe there is an empty floor space and you do that. And then maybe there's a table and you do the top of that, and then you do under the table and make sure there's nothing there. You know, if you're working in your closet, you start at the top left, do the shelf, do the rod, do the shelves, do the rod, whatever order things are in. And you can also do it in terms of kind of upright areas. So think about a 3-foot, 4-foot bookshelf, that amount of space. What if I work in just that portion of the closet and I do the top and the rod and the lower rod and the floor? You know, think about it that way. What's the little bit I can work on in the time I have available today? So when you don't have 3 days to do a total blitz on your garage, can you do that shelf, the next 4 feet of the floor, the next 6 feet of the floor, the next 4 feet of the floor, the cabinet, the workbench? You know, break it down into the little spots. Even if you're starting with the middle desk drawer and then the desktop and then the right-hand drawers, whatever that little breakdown needs to be to make it efficient, effective, and kind of standardized. You want to just do one at a time, and so you know where you left off, so the next time you have time, you can pick up right where you left off and continue going, okay? That's how you break down an area. Just move it around methodically. All right, time. Now, I like to see visual results between organizing sessions, so some of the suggestions about 10 and 15 minutes doesn't quite work for me. You want to have a little bit more time. However, there are a lot of areas you could do in a very short amount of time, like a bathroom drawer, like a kitchen drawer, like a desk drawer. Sometimes there's a little space you can do in 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm not saying you can't do a whole lot, but you're going to get a bigger bang for your buck if you start with a little bit longer time frames. Doesn't have to be huge. I typically work with my clients in 3-hour time blocks, and that is so we can see a big visible physical result while I'm teaching them. And so we need you to do a certain amount of practice. If you're doing it for yourself, I recommend at least half an hour to 3 hours. Over 3 hours, your eyes start going back in your head and it's hard to deal with, unless it's some sort of special project like moving or something. And then you just take more breaks and you work a little bit longer. But you're better off scheduling 1 hour a day for the next 30 days than you are scheduling 10 weeks of 3-hour sessions, for the most part. The trick is to be regular. So pick whatever your time frame is. If you can only work every week, some of my clients, I work twice a month, 3 hours each time, and we continually make progress. And within 6 months, we've gone through their whole house. But you have to kind of know that ahead of time. I'm going to be able to make progress. I may not be able to go as deep in every area in 6 months as I'd like to, but I can really get through the whole house if we kind of do a once through. Know that the time is going to take as long as it takes. Some areas are going to be really fast and some are going to be really slow, and you just have to pace yourself about that. So think more in terms of regularly scheduled time, and then it's going to definitely be done by a certain date. That just doesn't really happen unless you're moving, okay? All right, time. Regular schedule, know the breakdown, and that keeps you moving forward. So if you run out of time, you aren't left with a driveway full of stuff that you're going to have to put back in the garage so it doesn't get wet. So now you're moving it twice and then 4 times, because next time you go to work in the garage, you have to move it again. So think about it that way. How much can I move out and get back in the amount of time I've allotted? Is it an hour? Well, maybe you take everything out for about 20 minutes. You sort and purge for about 20 minutes, and then you put away everything in the last 20 minutes. So you've broken it down in the time you've allotted. Just think about it that way. And then the next time you start where you left off. Okay, definitions. What's in your space? What are the activities you do in there? I just did a room for a client over the last couple weeks that is a home office. It is the cat care area. It is the relaxing area for her sons to play video games. And it is the housing area for her crafts and projects. And she often does those in another room, but she needs to use the closet for part of that spot. We also stumbled across memorabilia. So all of those things happen in that space. Oh, and she does a few exercises in there as well. Not all of her exercises, but some. I tried to get her to move some to a different spot so everything would be centrally located, but the way their schedule and shared space works, it's just not that feasible to take it all the way out of the room. So as the first step, it is to define a space within the room for each of those categories of activities to live. And then later, when we clear a different room, there may be a spot in another room that's better for a workout area. And then the stuff from this home office / guest room / gameplay room / cat area / craft room storage area, maybe we move the exercise equipment to the other room once that other room is set up. But for now, it has to be there. And it has been purged and gone through, and it's just what she needs. And so it works in the meantime. Does that make sense? You keep moving forward without zigzagging all around your house. We didn't go automatically, oh, well, exercise equipment may not make sense in here long term. Let's go ahead and do the exercise room next so we can see. We didn't do that because we're working methodically around the house in an order that is most prioritized for her situation. So the exercise room is a little bit farther down the list, so we're not getting there anytime soon. So we did not zig over there and then zag back to the home office. We just left it there for now. This is the one time I let people do for now when you're in the process of setting up your house. You know you need it. It may not be in its final resting place, but it's in a usable place in the meantime. Okay. All right. So as you're defining the activities in a room, you need to figure out exactly what you need to do those activities, and you need to move everything else out of the way. So believe it or not, in this room, we also came across several other things that have no business being in that room, even with that many different definitions of activities that happen. And those got taken to where those activities take place. Because most of those things were just kind of dropped off there or set there when someone came over and something had to be moved off another table or chair in another part of the house. So those things got returned to where they actually go. And sometimes that place will be set up and sometimes it won't. So know that there's a little bit of transient time when that is happening as well. Some of it's going to be set up, some of it is not. And that stuff has already been decided about, and you need to just leave it contained, gathered together, usable, maybe not in its final spot, but know that that stuff moves with you as you go to each room. So a good example of this is, let's say you find a couple of batteries in your nightstand drawer, and then you find a battery in a kitchen drawer, and then you find some more batteries on the counter in the utility room, and then you find a couple more in your desk drawer. Well, until you get to the place where you decide you're going to keep all the batteries, maybe it's that utility room drawer. Once you get there, you can move all the batteries from the other spots into that drawer. And then when you find the ones 2 rooms later, you then go back and you can put them away because that spot has been defined. Does that make sense? I hope it does. It's somewhat hard to explain, but I think the battery example is good because I tend to find batteries everywhere. They're in people's pencil cups and things. Those are for pencils. Batteries go elsewhere. I don't know where that is for you, but they go elsewhere. Don't mix your pens and your batteries, people. Okay. All right. So that's the planning. That's all you have to do. You now know you're going to work on organizing projects here and there, usually at this time for about this amount of time. And you have thought through that you need a place for trash, a place for donations, a place for I don't know, and a spot to keep things that are going to belong elsewhere. And then you need to put your keeps away. But it's great. You just keep clearing space and sorting a little area at a time. And pretty soon the whole room is done. And then pretty soon that whole wing of your house is done. And then pretty soon the other wing of your house is done. I live in like 1,000 square feet. I don't have wings, but you get the picture. So anyway, check out more and over at morethanorganized.net. There's lots more free resources over there. And I'll see you next week when we are going to talk about more about the sorting process and how to keep moving forward. So a little bit of what I touched on today to have that plan of how it's going to work. But now we're going to actually get to the nitty gritty of it in the next week's episode. So I'll see you then. Bye.